and I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your schedule to join us today. So we do have a little presentation from Miss Calfani. I'm sorry, Natasha Calfani. Am I saying your name correctly?
Calfany.
I'm sorry?
Calfany.
Calfani. I'm so sorry about that. We have Natasha Calfani who will be giving us a presentation. She'll be starting off today. Our meeting for PCAB. So Miss Calfany is an attorney for the Better Together program, BTP. They are an early advocacy pre-petition program in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. They are part of the Maryland Office of the Public Defender. They provide legal services, mental health support, and parent support to parents who are under CPS investigation or at risk of CPS investigation. Their goal is to keep families together and to avoid court involvement by helping parents navigate the involvement with the CPS agency. So we do want to give her a warm welcome this evening and take it away.
Thank you. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Kayla, do you have to give her rights?
Yes.
I think you should be good now.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Natasha Calfany. I am the supervising attorney for the Better Together program. As stated, we are out of the Office of the Public Defender. The Better Together program is an early advocacy pre-petition program. That means that we provide legal services and other resources to families who are either under CPS investigation or at risk of being under CPS investigation. And our goal is to prevent family separation of all types, and avoid court involvement if at all possible. And so what that means is we are stepping in and trying to strengthen and stabilize the family, while providing the legal advocacy before their family is petitioned to the juvenile court system. We are a multidisciplinary team. We have attorneys on our team. We are both in Baltimore County and Baltimore City at this point. We started in Baltimore City and have moved into Baltimore County. Each of our programs in both jurisdictions have an attorney, a licensed social worker, and a parent advocate. And you will hear from each of those people through the course of our investigation. We use a holistic and multidisciplinary approach to examine the scope of the family's needs. So we want to understand what the issue was that arose or brought them before the Child Protective Services or the Department of Social Services. But we also are looking for those underlying causes of what is bringing the family to the attention of the system. We provide various referrals before that family separation happens. And so we are working together as a team to spot legal issues, but also to recognize and point out mental health issues and other issues related to substance use, or any other things that might be causing potential harm to the child and the family as a whole. And we are addressing those issues in the moment, but also making referrals that can be with the family long term to ensure that the family remains stable and that the issues are addressed and the child remains safe. And one thing that is unique about us is that we respond quickly to our family's needs, and we make warm handoffs to various services, including other attorneys, if the need arises and we can't avoid that court involvement. So our team, once we get a client, and we will talk about how the referral process is made, but once we get that referral and make contact with the family, we immediately begin to evaluate the family circumstances and situation. We are working together with the family or the parent to identify the legal and social needs directly related to the family, and then we immediately begin to address those issues. And as I stated before, we have a team of both attorneys, licensed social workers, and parent advocates, which are people who have been impacted by the system and have successfully overcome those things that caused their contact with the system. And so right now, I'm going to turn it over to our attorney for Baltimore City, Christine Inabugu, who will share specifically what the attorney in the Better Together program does. Christine.
Thank you, Natasha. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Inabugu. I am the Baltimore City attorney with the Better Together program. So as an attorney, one of the first interactions I do have with the client is something called a limited scope agreement meeting. During that meeting, I discuss the ethical rules I have to follow as their attorney, my expectations of the client, and most importantly, providing education regarding their parental rights. So during that meeting, I like to identify the client's past CPS history, if this is their first encounter with CPS or if they've had multiple encounters with CPS. Next, I like to identify what we call the chief complaint of the current CPS investigation, or if they're at risk of CPS investigation. So is there an issue of domestic violence? Is it a messy home? Is it a substance exposed newborn? And most importantly, I really like to identify any collateral legal issues that could impact the CPS investigation. So is there an outstanding family law issue regarding custody? Is there pending protective orders? Is there any outstanding warrants? But most importantly, we're really big on educating parents of their rights. I like to counsel parents regarding the pros and cons of working with the agency and letting them know. I like to always educate them about the fact that compliance does not always mean you're going to get the outcome that you're looking for. I like to acknowledge, their emotions and their frustrations that comes along with the CPS investigation, but also discussing with them, how we can achieve their goals and also keeping the agency accountable. And on the legal side, there's something we call reasonable efforts. And by reasonable efforts, we are holding CPS accountable and reminding them that before there's a removal, they have to prevent or eliminate the need of removal by providing certain services to the family. So for example, does the family need family counseling or individual counseling? Does the mother need substance abuse counseling or parenting classes? So before we can even discuss removal or before a petition can even be filed in court, CPS has to show that they provided reasonable efforts to the family before that removal happened.
Okay, I'm sorry, my apologies. I think, oh. Oh no. Okay. Next, we will hear from Amber Dorch, who is our licensed social worker.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Dorch, and I am with the Better Together program. I am the social worker that has jurisdiction to practice social work in Baltimore City and Baltimore County at this time. And so basically, I am a big advocate in families. I believe in strengthening families. I believe in building families, but then also increasing the autonomy of our individual clients and mothers, fathers, grandparents, caregivers, relatives, or other non-relatives, and building them up as well, especially those who have been impacted by the child welfare system. I started out working in mental health, and I have really built upon in the last 10 years my career in working with all aspects of individuals impacted, especially those who are considered to be the most vulnerable, including those who have substance use, mental health, even people who suffer or necessarily have or experience a level of chronic homelessness. And that also includes women and children, including also substance use as well. You can go to the next slide, Natasha. So social work in practice with the Better Together program is a bit unique because the way we are approaching the client's needs, especially assessing the family and also the family structure, sometimes is a very delicate way of understanding and interacting with different systems, and then also making sure that we are operating and advocating for our parents and the families for their best outcomes. And so what that also looks like is me, the social worker, partnering with my parents, partnering with my families, and really meeting them where they're at, getting and handling those different circumstances, especially looking at the aspects of trauma, navigating those psychosocial stressors that are like everyday things that sometimes we don't always necessarily, we take for granted, but we don't necessarily think those types of things can be crises, like not being able to go to get to the market, or your food stamps being cut off, or your BG&E getting a turn off notice on BG&E. Like taking certain things for granted are sometimes what our families are experiencing every single day, that interrupts their cycle of living and stability, especially maintaining household and financial obligations to keep their families together, especially keeping their children safe. And so looking at the family in its whole, also assessing any strengths, weaknesses, challenges, looking at different interventions, community partnering with different organizations to make sure that our uh, families have accessible and appropriate referrals, not necessarily just saying, we think this is what you need based on this conversation. No, talking it through. It's okay, and allowing the family to have the autonomy to say, no, that's not what I saw. This is something that I choose or want to follow up on. So doing those kinds of things, strength building, and definitely empowerment, building and modeling with our families, especially particularly with our women of color. They experience all different types of levels of trauma, especially really just even within their own culture of their family, of what they've created to protect their children. And so assessing those needs, and then seeing, okay, where can we, insert some self-care interventions? Where can we maybe take our mental health and, trust another person by maybe going to therapy or retrying, that therapeutic process, and building that relationship with someone that in some ways possibly could have failed them in one of the systems that they have interacted with during their lifespan. So that's basically what we do with social work in practice at the Better Together program.
And next, we're going to hear from our parent advocate, Mallory Branham.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Mallory Branham, and I am a certified peer recovery specialist and parent advocate for the Better Together program. I am also a person with lived experience. I am sitting here today with you with over 4 years clean from illicit substances. I also have struggled with mental health. I have been to 11 treatment centers, and I never had more than 3 months clean. Like I said, today I stand here with over 4 years. As a parent advocate with the Better Together program, I help guide and walk through the situations with the client. I'm here to support them, guide, advocate, and be the example of hope to the families I work with, that they can do the same. Because of my lived experience, I'm able to provide clients with my own expertise in helping them through the different challenges they may be facing. As a parent advocate who helps keeps families together with the Better Together program, my main goal is to build trust and rapport with them. I help them get connected to community resources and help make appointments and go with them if needed. I also advocate for parents' rights, make referrals for substance abuse. I also attend court hearings if it may not be about, the child and they have a court hearing that's a criminal hearing. I will also go with them and attend that with them, so they have that extra support. Definitely connecting the families to different resources, food, if they need food, baby, clothes, household items and things like that. I also go to appointments with some of the clients if they need their documents like birth certificates, ID, socials, and they just don't know how to handle appointments. Because when you struggle with mental health and substance abuse, one or the other or both, you really have trouble just living, day to day. So I'm really there to, help guide them. And like Amber said, give that empowerment to them that they too can do the same thing. I was a person that did have a CPS case with my youngest daughter. I have two daughters. One is 18 and one just turned 9. I had 22 dirty urines with my youngest daughter through the CAP program. And I'm here to say that people can change. I never thought that I would get myself together, and here I am, being a mom and being able to do all the things, that I should have been doing with my oldest daughter. During my CPS investigation, there were times that I felt like no one was listening to me or taking my concerns seriously. So I feel like if the Better Together program would have been available back then in 2016, it would have made the process so much more understandable. It would have also made me feel like I was not alone and I had a team of people advocating and supporting. After working with some of my clients, I continue to see some of the same things occurring that I went through, 9 years ago. The only difference now is that the Better Together program does exist, and we are the change the community needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mallory. I will stop sharing my screen there. And I just want to kind of talk just a little bit about why the Better Together program exists. And so we understand that there is a power imbalance between the Department of Social Services and the families that they engage. And one of the things that we know is that families really struggle to understand what the issues are, understand their rights, understand their responsibility, and make informed decisions when engaging with yet another government system that many people view is there to take their child. And so the Better Together program is a way to bridge that gap to help parents understand what is happening when they go through this system. We are also uniquely positioned under the Office of the Public Defender to establish a level of trust that just honestly is not possible when CPS knocks on a parent's door. And we know and are educated in the law and the court process. And so we can properly advise a client what is going to happen should certain things not be resolved, what needs to happen, and frankly, what they don't have to do when CPS comes. Often you will hear that certain things that the Department of Social Services asks parents is voluntary. But we know that it's not when parents are under the threat of, if you don't do this, then your child will be taken. And so a program like ours comes in to our main goal is to protect children and keep children safe. But we also understand that families are the fabric of our communities. And part of keeping children safe is also keeping the family together. The last thing I would say is we also know that foster care is harmful to children. Children in foster care fare worse in every category than children under similar situations that are able to stay home and receive the services they need. And when I say every category, children in foster care experience severe educational deficits. they experience more mental health issues. They are more likely to come in contact with the juvenile system. They're more likely to have mental health and substance use issues. And so in every category, the research states that children fare worse in foster care than they do when they're able to grow up in their families with the resources they need. And so it is very important that we work to do things differently than they have historically been done, and really work to support families and strengthen families and give families what they need so that they can stay together. And I am happy to report that we have prevented, in the 2 years that we've been in existence, over 116 petitions from being filed in court, where children were able to be safe and remain in their families, and families have been able to stay together. And with that, I really appreciate you all's time. And if there's any questions, we can take those.
Thank you so much for that presentation. This is really like personal. It hits home. And I wish you guys were around when my niece was going through this situation. Um, yeah, my niece has 5 children. Two of them were taken from her. And I'm sitting here thinking as I read back through those files and looking at all of those things that they told her to do that they didn't help her finish doing. She tried to move out of state to her dad to, get a better environment. They told her she could do that. They told her she could do the classes and report back. I just felt they didn't help her. So ultimately, her 2 oldest kids were put into foster care. However, thankfully, the 2 dads that adopted my niece and nephews continue to let my mom and I see them. So I'm happy to say, they're adults, 21 and 18. They did really well, but she just needed a lot of help, and I think CPS just steered her the wrong way. They didn't help my mother help her, and this program just sounds like something that she needed way back when. So I do have one question. First of all, congrats, Mallory, on everything you've accomplished. So you mentioned a lot of things that you all do, or Mallory, that you do, like appointments, court cases, things like that. How many people is the program able to accommodate, since you do so many things with everyone?
Well, we try to not have more than 25 cases going at a time per
Okay.
jurisdiction. And we've not had an issue in terms of meeting that max. And so we're able to take referrals as they come, as long as they're appropriate for the program. And it's important to know that we really service our clients based on their need. So not every case needs a parent advocate, or not every case needs a licensed social worker. We have some cases where, both are needed, but our cases are a little spread out because while everyone does get an attorney, because we treat these as legal cases, not everyone needs the specific services that Mallory will provide. Like you were talking about with your niece, helping her get into the services and stay in the services. That's something that, a parent advocate would do. Make sure you're actually assessing the service and plugged in. But some parents, are okay with that, but they may need, the mental health referral, or things of that nature. And so we really provide the service based on the need of the client.
Okay. So there is a question in the chat about how can you all be reached? There is a one pager on PCAB's website for anyone who's interested in reaching out to them. It's in the parent resource page area of PCAB's website.
And we take, service providers can use that email address and email us the name and contact information of a referral and a little bit about what's going on, why they're making the referral. Or you can just pass on our information to the parent and they can call themselves. But that's really all we need to get started and reach out to the parent.
Okay. Do we have any more questions?
Shartae had a question in the chat. Are you able to see that? I can read it happily.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shartae, I did miss that. Does your office offer consultation services for families who may not be going through issues with CPS, but may be interested in legal services?
We don't directly service families who just have a legal issue that is not threatening the safety of the child or family, but we can make referrals to other legal service providers. But we are specifically here to address the need of those families who are under CPS investigation or at risk of losing their children to the system. And I will say that does include some of the ancillary needs that may be causing the harm. So maybe there's no direct abuse or neglect, but there's housing instability that if this parent loses their home, then obviously that could cause an issue with the system. And so we can address like the landlord tenant, or if there's a DV issue and that parent needs help filing a protective order, we can assist with things like that as well. So we do some other legal services, but they are connected to that threatening the stability of the family.
Okay. We have one more question in the chat. Do you help out with consultation for vulnerable adults?
No, unfortunately, our focus is on, minor children under 18.
Okay. Did I have? I think I caught all of the questions. So I put the link to the parent resource page in the chat for anyone who's interested in seeing the one pager. We thank you again for your time and your presentation this evening.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So moving on with our agenda, we have just a little slight adjustment. We have another presentation. So we're going to move just a little bit the committee updates and related updates. We're going to move those down a little bit and let Miss Allison Perkins Cohen, Chief of Staff for Baltimore City Schools, go ahead and present and give us a little information on school closures and snow days. So Miss Allison Perkins Cohen, if you're here.
I am. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
having me.
Thank you.
I appreciate being here with PCAB. I haven't gotten to meet with PCAB in a while, so I appreciate getting to be here and you including me. So we are approaching that winter season, but this conversation actually came up a long time ago. Tanae and Tina Hubbard asked that I come. I think this is a kind of a regular question that parents understandably have about how do we make decisions about school closures and snow days. So I kind of just wanted to walk you through what the process looks like and answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to talk in two buckets. I'm going to talk about system-wide closures or delayed openings or early dismissals, as well as individual or small groups of schools when things happen at a school level, like a power outage or something that impacts. So there's a kind of slightly different processes. So I'm going to talk about both. So first on the system-wide closure and delayed openings. So our first priority is always to make sure that students can be in school whenever they can be. It's really important that students are in school and they don't miss instructional time. There's a lot going on in schools that we need to make sure we're engaging, connecting students with. We saw in the pandemic in particular how problematic it is for students to be out of school. So we really try to prioritize students being in school whenever we can safely do so. And also we provide meals. And so that's really important for students too. So we're really committed to trying to make sure we can do whatever possible to make sure that students are in school and whenever it can be safe. So the other big priority is trying to give parents as much notice as possible. I'm a working parent myself. My children are now older. In fact, my youngest is actually now in a teacher resident program in one of our schools, in city schools. He's in the City Teaching Alliance program. So my kids are out of the point where I have to take care of them when they have to leave. But I remember well, I was in this role when they were in that job, and I remember well how difficult it is when students, when you don't have enough notice and you have to make arrangements for your children. Um, so again, a big priority for us is notice for our families. But so whenever we can, we'll try to make the announcement the night before if we know that a storm is coming. But we'll only do that early notification as long as it doesn't compromise our commitment to prioritizing that school remain open for students. So we live in Baltimore. There's a lot of times, predictions that there's going to be snow and so on that are pretty unclear about how much they're going to impact us. And also, I think because of the Baltimore doesn't see the same kind of impacts that some other parts of the state have. There are other parts of the state where you really see larger snow than we see in Baltimore. And so if we can, sometimes you get predictions where excuse me, it's going to be a blizzard and we all know that and it's very, very clear. And so whenever we know that and we can do so without risking that somehow we're going to wake up in the morning and all you see is grass and there's no snow, we will make the call the night before. But when it's precarious and it's just a little bit uncertain, we prioritize waiting till the next day so that we can waiting till the wee hours of the morning to check, so that we can hopefully have students in school. So on days like that, when it's uncertain, then our ops team, who is very dedicated, our transportation team goes out in buses. They start that between 3 and 4 in the morning. They go out and they drive the streets and they drive around to see if the streets are icy, especially some of the side streets, and they kind of assess what the situation is like. And then the chief operating officer, Lynette Washington, calls me, usually around 4 o'clock, and we talk about what we're finding. It's wonderful to have them go out and do that real on the ground intel, and it's imperfect. I mean, sometimes at that time it hasn't started snowing yet, so there's nothing happening, and yet there's still a forecast for snow, and you just have to make the best educated guess you can. But that's how we do it. We go out and they drive around and we kind of look and assess and then decide whether we think we can open safely or whether we maybe need a 2-hour delay or whether we need to in fact close. And then once we make that determination, we get the information out internally through a distribution list that gets the information out to schools and gets it out to food and nutrition, so they know that they're not going to have to get their staff in to provide meals, and also records it for reporting to the state. And then we get it out. If it's a system-wide closure, then we'll also get it out on through our own channel 77 and through social media and the city schools website and all those other ways, so that parents can find it as quickly as possible. So that's for system-wide closures. For individual school closures, which could be a power outage that impacts a school or a small group of schools. It could be a water main break where the school doesn't have water. Again, a lot of the times those happen in the wee hours of the morning, or they might happen in the middle of the day. Operations will call me and let me know what's happening. If say it's in the middle of the school day and there's a power outage, they will get in touch with their contacts at BGE to get some type of assessment of how quickly the power will turn on. And then we do assessments, based on that information, then also talking to the school principal and the principal supervisor kind of about the school conditions. Some of our schools have a lot of windows, a lot of glass. They can operate for a little while without power because it's a pretty light-filled schools. Some of our schools are not in that situation. They don't have as many windows and it's pretty difficult. It's pretty dark in there and it's pretty difficult for them to operate very long. So we take those conditions into consideration. If it's a water main break, we don't play with water main breaks very much if the school doesn't have water. Students need water, staff needs water, people turns out need to go to the bathroom, and you can't really run a school very long without water. So if there's a water main break, usually we make a decision pretty quickly and let folks know. Usually we try to give families an hour notice if we're ever closing early, to let them know that their child's school is closing, but also understand that parents may not get there. I mean, we're hoping people can get there as soon as possible, but the message to principals is always parents may not get there right on time. And our own buses, like, our buses drive students in the morning to school, then they have a break in the middle of the day and they drive at the end. So when something happens in the middle of the day, we got to get people back in to drive the buses. And sometimes it takes us a minute, or MTA a minute if it's a high school or middle school, to get buses there. So we also make sure that staff knows that they need to wait with students until they're picked up. And um, and then, but anyway, those are kind of the types of situations where we have to close in the middle of the day again. And those situations, we're always prioritizing keeping kids in school whenever we safely can and comfortably can. And then if we can't, then we also try to work with our food and nutrition team to make sure that students are fed before they leave, because that's important too, to make sure they at least get lunch before they go. And I think that's pretty much the main things I wanted to share. I think there was a question that was asked in advance about how we coordinate with other counties. We do talk to other counties. We do look at other counties in terms of what they're doing. But Baltimore is pretty different. Like, Baltimore County is really large, and it has it has just different geographic areas. So they have parts of their district where it's really snowy, and then parts where it's not. We're not as geographically large or diverse as that. So what happens in Baltimore County has to close more often than we do because of just their geographic range. One thing that we're fortunate about is that we don't have to do that as often. It's a little bit of a smaller area, and so when our drivers are going out, they can get a better sense of what's happening across the district than you can in a place like Baltimore County. Any questions?
I don't see any questions on Facebook or YouTube. I think you hit every single point. I know it's a sticky topic when it comes to, just how everyone's feeling around that time of the year when these things pop up. But from our end, I don't see any questions. So
Great. Well, obviously, if you have questions, certainly follow up. These are tough calls, and it's very hard to predict the weather, so it is hard. And so it's always, it's a point of stress for everybody. So I appreciate that. But again, we try to make it as responsibly as we can by really making sure we understand the conditions and giving people as much notice as we can.
Oh, I guess I do have a question. When it comes to like attendance and just giving some leeway to families that might still have trouble getting to school on those particular days, like what is the messaging around that?
Yeah. So if families may need to make their own decisions. They may decide that they don't think it's safe. They may have a family member who has challenges getting their students to school. They might have an older grandparent who's responsible for getting students to school. So if families, make their own decision where they don't think it makes sense to go, it's not safe for them, then they should absolutely make that decision. It is still an absence. I mean, school is open on those days, so it is still an absence. But we obviously want our students there every day, but we also want our families to be safe. And we all need to make responsible decisions for our own family. And there are times when the right decision for a family may be that they feel it's safer for their family to stay home, and that's okay. And it's an absence, and hopefully that this is, that's not a part of a larger problem. Hopefully the student is generally coming to school, and it's just on a bad weather day. It's hard for that particular family, and we understand that.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what factors go into dismissing early? I look at the Baltimore City Facebook page and I just read some of those comments and shake my head. I'm like, you can't please everybody.
That is That's for sure. You're feeling my pain. That's for sure. Whatever you do, whether you close early, you don't close
Right.
early, whether you close school or you don't close school, there's people on both people are angry in both directions. Um, Closing early, again, we're kind of looking at the roads. We are looking at, we've had our, if it's an early closure, we've had our drivers out there in the morning. We look at the forecast and when it's supposed to come down. And sometimes closing, like you really have to assess the weather. Sometimes it's supposed to rain around, say, noon. Well, noon students are in school. It's actually probably worse to send people home in the middle of if it's snowing then and there's going to be visibility issues. Um, if it's not supposed to accumulate. That's what, like, if the ground is warm and it's not supposed to accumulate, then we probably would actually hold them till that flurry passes and then we can get home safely. We just kind of look at the conditions and decide whether it seems safer to get students home before something happens or whether we can get a full day of school in. And again, have our drivers out sometimes if we need to kind of go out and see if the roads are freezing up or anything's happening like that, to try to make the best decision we can to get as much school in for our students and keep everybody safe as much as we can.
So what about schools that kind of have like later departure times?
Yeah, that's one of the challenges is that we do have a range of, to your point, it's a wise question. We have a range of bell times. So there are schools that let out at 2:30 and then there are schools that let out at 4 o'clock. And that's a big range when you're talking about weather situations. As I think you probably know, when we do early releases, they tend to be a certain number of hours prior to the bell time.
Right.
That's because that's the only way we can get the buses there. The reason you have all those bell times is because the buses have to, you have to get all students to school. So some bus drivers and buses may do a route on the early part of the bell time, and then they may do a route on the end of the bell time. They may be doing two routes, and so that's why we need to keep it within that same schedule that we've laid out that allows us to get students to and from school. That's why we do a 2 hour early release or a 3 hour early release, so we can still have that spread of people driving. But does, to your point, it causes problems. Thank goodness now all of our schools are air conditioned. Your question was particularly problematic when schools weren't air conditioned, because it gets hotter as the day goes on. And
Mhm.
so, when you're on the edge about whether it was too hot to keep students in school when it was, now we're all air conditioned. So thank goodness. But when we weren't, you had to really think about what was going to happen to the school that doesn't release till 4 o'clock when it's really
Right.
hot. So that made some of the schools that release at 2 when it's probably not so hot release early too, because it's very hard to make individualized calls on something like that when there was, say, at the time when there was, when we started, there were 76 schools who didn't have air conditioning. You couldn't divide that up. You had to be either in the non-air conditioning group or the air conditioning group because it was too confusing to parents. And so, but that made it hard for the reason that you're asking. I mean, the other reason why we're so really committed to making sure students are in school is that, as you all know, we have other reasons that the other counties don't have why our students miss school. Our facilities are not what they should be for our young people. And I'm happy to come back another time and talk about that and all the ways that PCAB can help advocate that we address those issues. But with those challenges, we have students who miss school because the heat's not working or that the air conditioning's not working or some other issues happening with the school facility. And so we don't want to exacerbate that problem by also missing days when it's unnecessary to miss it just because there might be chance of bad weather. We'd rather make sure we get students in school as much as we can.
Thank you.
Okay.
I do not see any questions in the chat.
All right.
Thank you so much for all that information.
Well, thank you all for having me. Appreciate it. I
All right. So, jumping back onto our agenda, Kayla, where are we? Okay, related group updates. Is Marvin here? No.
Yes, if any. I don't think any of well, Devin is on and Marvin are on, but I don't think they have any updates tonight. So.
And Shartae had to jump off. I know she hasn't, they had to reschedule their meeting.
Correct.
We don't have an update yet from them.
And that's correct. We don't have any updates from DRM at this time. Thanks,
Okay.
Kayla.
Of course.
All right.
All right.
Do you have anybody from the PTA?
Oh,
Nope.
sorry.
I don't think there's anybody from the PTA on.
No, not tonight.
Okay. So hopefully we'll have an update for everyone next month. All right. Family and Community Engagement Committee. I did not see Trinae, but their next meeting is Tuesday, November 11th. That is a midday meeting, 1:15 to 2:15 p.m. and it's on Zoom. They meet the second Tuesday of each month. So you can go to the PCAB's website, find the link for that. Oh, policy, that's me. The next meeting is Monday, November 3rd from 6 to 7 p.m. Again, it's on Zoom. That meeting always coincides with the Monday after the City Schools Policy Committee meets. So again, that link can be found on PCAB's website on the calendar. Teaching and Learning Committee. I do see Dr. Dante Ryan on. Do you have any updates for us this evening?
Good evening. Am I coming through clearly?
You are.
Good. Good evening, everyone. So, the only committee update I have is regarding the time in which we're meeting. Since I first set this schedule, my schedule has changed quite a bit, and so I'm trying to find a better meeting schedule because unfortunately, this past Tuesday, I unfortunately had to I had to unfortunately cancel the meeting because of something that came up, and I wasn't able to hold the meeting. So I got to kind of work through my schedule a little bit and identify a better time that I consistently hold meetings. And I will share that with Kayla so that the website and everything else along with it can be updated accordingly.
All right. Thank you so much. And our budget committee. We're working towards confirming dates for a PCAB budget forum with city schools. There's currently no lead for that committee as of right now.
I do want to add that Jason Green and Jason, who's on,
and Shartae, that's right.
And Shartae, yes, they have been participating in frequent meetings with the budget team to talk about the process and how budget is rolled out to schools. So they are in on those meetings. However, for a PCAB budget committee, working on confirming those dates and getting that started. But we do have PCAB members that have ears in on that entire process and how that's rolled out to families throughout the school year.
Thank you, Kayla. I completely forgot about them. Sorry, Jason.
All right.
Oh, you're all good. Y'all are good. You're handling well. You're handling well.
Did I miss out on anything, Jason, that you wanted to share regarding those meetings? Okay.
That was perfect.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there anything from the charter advisory meeting?
Dr. Stewart is not on tonight either.
Okay. Okay. All right. So if anyone's interested in having PCAB join their event, you can always send us an email. The email address is there on the screen, pcab@bcps.k12.md.us. Let us know what type of event you're having, the dates and time and location, and we will try to check it out, put it on our calendar if we can, and come out and join you guys. And here we are sharing some pictures where we have been out to certain events. We've been to a back to school skate night at Shake and Bake. There was a community school coordinators meeting in October. That is, what was that? That's Corey. Corey Witherspoon was at that event. And we have Trinae at the bottom there at an event. So we are out and about in the neighborhood, in the community. So we will come out if we can to your event. Just let us know where it is. Okay, PCAB engagement with Dr. Santalisas. So our fall 2025 public meeting with special guest Dr. Santalisas will be Thursday, November 20th at 6:30 p.m. There is a QR code on the screen. It will probably be on our website also, where you could submit questions. There's a public input survey there. We gather questions from the community, and she answers those questions very, very eloquently. So let us know what questions you might have for her. We'll present a final list of questions to her. Those are due by close of business Thursday, October 30th, so that she can, get prepared and we could be prepared to submit our questions to her and her team so that she could come in and be prepared to help discuss those things with us. So again, here's the input QR code for you to share your input, complete our survey, and save the dates. These are our meeting dates. So our next meeting is November 20th. Again, that's going to be with Dr. Santalisas as our special guest. And we thank you for joining us this evening. It is 7:25. We hope you all got some good information from our two guests this evening. And without keeping you any longer, we'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Great job, team. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.